Italian Football Podcast.
Hello everybody and welcome to a special celebration episode of the Italian Football Podcast. I'm Carlo Garganese, joined as always by Nima Tavallaey, and what we're going to do today is we're just going to celebrate Napoli winning the Scudetto. Napoli are Serie A champions for the third time in their history, the first time since 1990. It's a historic day for all fans of Napoli and all Neapolitans. The party has started and it will go on not for days, not for weeks, but for months, maybe years. It's never going to stop because it's a really, really special day and it's been a really, really special season. So we're just going to do a short episode, just celebrating this success, remembering this success. And Nima, so first of all, in celebration of this success and this achievement, I want us just to go through the key reasons why they've won the Scudetto in terms of personnel and in terms of what they've done, Napoli. And first of all, we have to start with Aurelio De Laurentiis, the president, and Giuntoli, Cristiano Giuntoli, the sporting director. I mean, because what they've managed to put together this season, it started with them, hasn't it?
It absolutely has. For me, it's really funny because last summer in July, when things were not looking too good because Insigne and all these, players were leaving, Napoli fans were absolutely livid, and we had Vincenzo Credendino on this show. And it was on the 14th of July where we had a full-on Napoli deep dive. It's episode 238, so everyone listening to this who is a patron, please, you can go back and listen to that. I mean, we went through the backstory of Koulibaly to Chelsea, how De Laurentiis had turned down 100 million for Koulibaly, and Koulibaly turning down Juventus, the Kim Min-Jae story, everything that was going on, and it was complete chaos back then. And he was not happy, and Napoli fans weren't happy. But then something after that, the mercato really started for Napoli, and they started signing these players, one after one, and they ended up with Raspadori, Simeone towards the end there as well, and relayed the groundwork there. Because let's again remember, De Laurentiis was so attacked by the media, by the fans, for dismantling the project, for not investing, for not caring enough. And instead, he has been proven right decisively. He said something the other day that annoyed Juventus, Milan, and Inter, which I found really, really funny. He said, "This is a Scudetto. This is a title of honesty and integrity." And he went on his soapbox and started talking about all of that. Which, I mean, if we discard, of course, he's being deliberately inflammatory there. I understand what he means, because Napoli don't work on debt, don't operate on debt. They have always, since he took over, been run on profit. They have been profitable systematically, pretty much, barring the COVID years. And ever since returning to the Serie A, they've systematically always finished in a position to go to Europe. They've played European football every single year. They've played European football since returning to the Serie A. The following year after that, of course. So that is something he's been building up to over these years. And of course, one of the positive, quote unquote, aspects of COVID was that the football, the money ball, the artificial breathing of Juve and Inter and all these other clubs, and Milan, of course, started that earlier with Elliott coming in and creating sustainability. That has allowed for Napoli to win this, because there was, you could no longer run too much on borrowed money. And so I understand what he means when he says that, but of course he is De Laurentiis. He's going to exaggerate. He's going to pretend that he's some sort of messiah and that he's like the picture of honesty and all that stuff. And it's funny, but he does have a point. He hasn't run up ridiculous debt. He has always been profitable. He's always been sustainable, and he's always delivered sporting projects. With Giuntoli, of course, this being the ciliegina sulla torta, winning Napoli's third Scudetto. It's been absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, no, and you look at the work they did last summer. I mean, they got rid of 5 first team players, 4 of them pillars. The top scorer in the history of Napoli, Mertens, Insigne, the captain, and the Koulibaly, the best defender, and Fabian Ruiz, the centre midfield, and then Ospina, the first choice goalkeeper. I mean, you're looking at five first choice players there, and they've brought in. I mean, it's just incredible what they've done. Buying Kvaratskhelia for 10 million, buying Kim Min-Jae for 18 million. I mean, Kim Min-Jae has been the best defender in the league. Kvaratskhelia,
well, if not in all of Europe. I mean, I think there's a serious case to be made that he's probably been the best defender in all of Europe.
Yeah. And Kvaratskhelia, the best player in the league along with Osimhen. I mean, it's absolutely amazing the work that they've done, and it just shows that when you have a clear project, which is something which Juventus that don't have, Inter haven't really had for 2 years. It shows what is possible. Especially in these times where there isn't the economic power that the big three had over the rest of the league in previous years. That this is what is possible now. But we have to say Spalletti as well.
Well, that's part of it, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because
it's having
getting
the
right players.
Yeah, it's having the
Exactly.
synergy. It's having the synergy between all parts of the club.
Like having a coach,
project.
identifying the right coach for the squad and understanding what that coach needs, the kind of football he wants to play, bringing in players that are in line with that philosophy, but also maintaining the financial sustainability of it, not overspending, cutting your wage bill, ending the transfer window on a profit whilst doing all of this. I called it last summer, saying that I called it as the best transfer window any Italian club has had since Inter's magical summer of 2009, when they sold Ibrahimovic and financed getting Lucio Snyder and all these other players, which ended up in a treble. Like, I stand by that. I think this has been a fantastic mercato, and it just showed why Italian sporting directors are so important and so good.
But
at
it's also up to the manager in being able to develop these players and get them playing in the system, and that's what Spalletti's done. The way that he develops and improves players, we've seen it over his career. But what he's done at Napoli, the way that he's got these players and he's made them play at their full capacity, or even better than their level. Lobotka turning him into one of the best centre midfielders around. Kvaratskhelia, how he's developed him.
Anguissa,
somebody that was at Fulham in the Championship. Kim Min-Jae, Rahmani. I mean, Mario Rui from just an ordinary left back into someone that was become an assist machine. You could go on and on. You could go on and on about what he's
Elmas.
done.
Elmas,
but the great football that they play, the modern football that they play, the number of goals that they've scored. And also it's great for Spalletti because I think it's beautiful to see someone that's been a bridesmaid so many times to finally win that much-deserved Scudetto at the age of 64, I think he is now. That's fantastic. It's definitely, his career definitely deserves it. So I'm really, really happy for Spalletti. But then you've got the players. You've got the players as well. And, I was thinking about this. If you were to pick your best 11 in Serie A this season, how many of them would be Napoli players? Probably about 7, wouldn't they? I mean, that's how incredible and how dominant they've all been, how good they've all been individually. I mean, you can't look past the front two, because Osimhen and Kvaratskhelia have just literally been unplayable for most of the season. And you can see that in their numbers. The top scorer in the league, the top assist man in the league. Just amazing. Incredible. Kim Min-Jae, the best defender in the league. Lobotka, the best midfielder in the league. But, so many incredible performers. Di Lorenzo, Rui, Rahmani, Anguissa, Zielinski, Elmas, Politano. Maret's actually done pretty good in goal, and he was a bit of a concern. Simeone has there been a better sub than Simeone? I mean, it's incredible.
I mean, his goal per minute ratio in the Serie A is mad.
Yeah.
And also Raspadori. I mean, getting that goal against Juve. I mean, that will be the symbol of this Scudetto. The goal at the death at the Juventus stadium that he scores. That is forever now iconic imagery in Naples, in Napoli.
And there's been a lot of iconic moments in this season. I mean, the thrashing of Liverpool, the thrashing of
Juve at
5-1 at Juventus, at home. I mean, that win, doing the double over Juventus with that Raspadori goal. I mean, it's magical, absolutely magical season. How does it compare, though? Because everybody will always compare to the 1987 Scudetto.
Look, that side, like, again, the Serie A was the level in terms of how much better it was than any other league. is the distance between the other leagues and the Serie A was a level and distance that I don't think we'll ever see again, because football is too globalized. We'll still see big dominance by the Premier League.
I think we
by
will,
virtue of
actually.
being
I think we
rich.
will, because it'll be the Super League. I think it will. But in a fair era, we've never seen it, and we never will. In an era where there's actual competitiveness and there's not a monopoly from the Super League, the Premier League, I think we will see it. I think it'll be worse than that, unfortunately. But that's
You reckon? I don't think so.
I think it will. Without doubt, it will.
I think football. You know why I don't think so? I think football is too globalized. I think football is way too globalized. There's so many quality players out there that I don't think you'll ever reach those levels. I think you'll see dominance, but not those levels.
I disagree, unfortunately. But anyway, getting away from the point, I think that 1987 will always be more significant, as it was the first. You always remember your first with anything. Yeah. With anything. Pick anything in life, you remember your first. But before Maradona's arrival, in 84, Napoli had never won the league. A team from the southern mainland had never won the Scudetto, and Napoli had avoided relegation 2 years in a row before Maradona, and then for them suddenly to then go from that to winning the Scudetto a few years later, it was incredible, and the significance of it culturally. I mean, we know about the hatred, the differences between the north and the south, the hatred that Napoli and the Neapolitans have for the north, and vice versa, the abuse that they get from fans, the economic divide, the prejudice, all this kind of stuff. This was a victory for the South. It had never been done before, and probably never thought it would be done before, because it was like fighting against the establishment, against the establishment of Juventus, Milan, and Inter, and they did it. So I think that will always have more significance. But I also think at the same time that, what Napoli have done here, I mean, no team outside of Milan, Inter or Juventus have won the Scudetto for 22 years, because that is how modern football has gone now. Modern football in every league has basically just become monopolised by a few rich teams, and we've seen that with Bayern winning, 10 in a row in Germany, PSG winning it every year in Liga, Barcelona and Madrid, and the odd one from Atletico, but Barcelona and Madrid basically monopolising La Liga. So we're seeing it that it's always the same rich teams, and that's how it's been in Italy as well. So to see that someone from outside the big three winning it again, I think is an amazing achievement, and because it's been so long, the significance is huge as well. 33 years. I mean that's a third of a century ago.
Exactly, and the fact that it happens this year, it happens when Diego passes away in the year 2 AD. Both Argentina and Napoli are able to turn the page and look towards the future without the past no longer dragging them and holding them back, which has been the sentiment both for Argentina and Napoli. The weight of Maradona, to be able to turn the page in this way is poetic and kind of it's quaint and poetic, and part of this notion of life continues, life goes on. There's always a future. There's always a tomorrow to look forward to, even though you remember that's the beauty of football, isn't it?
Yeah. That is the beauty of football. There's always a tomorrow. You can have a disastrous season, but you can always look forward to next season. But I do lean to 87, to be honest, and 90.
No, that's the great
because the league was so strong then. I mean, every team right down to the bottom of the league boasted world class stranieri, foreigners. You look at Platini, Boniek, Laudrup at Juventus, the three Dutchmen at Milan, the three Germans at Inter, Falcao, Cerezo at Roma, Socrates, Passarella, Fiorentina, Elchiar, Briegel at Verona, Zico. I mean, it could go on and on and on. Every single team had superstars in their team, and now it's not. Unfortunately, we're the Italian football podcast. The Italian league isn't what it was.
No, it's not. Well, we've got to be honest. We're not going to bullshit people.
Yeah, it's not what it was.
This is why I say that there will never be anything like that again, because even though the Premier League will dominate and it will get the best players, again, football is too globalized. Milan, Inter, Barcelona, Real Madrid, Bayern Munich, these are global brands, and they will always be attractive for for players from South America, from Africa, from Asia, from every part of the world. It's still a seal of prestige to have played for one of these clubs, and that was kind of cemented in the 80s and 90s when the Serie A literally had every single world-class player. I don't think the Premier League will have every single world-class player. That's what I meant when I said earlier that you'll never see the discrepancy of level between the others and one ever again. You'll have world-class players everywhere because, first of all, there are better football. Overall, football is globalized. There are far more football players. Football has become much more of an industry. And so better football players are available than they were back then when Preben Elkjær was smoking when Verona won the Serie Scudetto. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, the level is just at a different level. You don't have the Brian Robson go down, get smashed, and then go and win the the English First League top division. Like, it's a different kind of level now. The difference between the best, the Serie A and everyone else was so huge back then. I don't think we'll ever seen that. And also the way, like you said, the way that they did it, they were almost relegated. This has been something De Laurentiis has been building to for 10, 15 years. That was try not to get relegated 2 years in a row and then build slowly towards upwards. And then miracle, winning two Scudetti, winning a UEFA Cup with, in my opinion, the greatest footballer of all time, with Diego Maradona.
And that's it. I mean, if we compare the 87 and 90 teams to today and who I would get put in that team, I mean, it's really difficult to do. But I mean, I think from the 87 team, obviously Maradona, probably Giro Ferrara, Fernando Di Napoli, maybe Bagni, maybe in midfield. But I think Ferrara, Di Napoli, Maradona, Giordano. From the 90 team, I definitely would add Alemão and Careca.
Absolutely. And then remember, you had Gianfranco Zola and Cannavaro as kind of kids as well.
Well, Zola, Cannavaro was still too young, but Zola was a sub player. But in 90. But I mean, from the current team, I think Di Lorenzo, Kim, Lobotka, Kvara, Osimhen, I think they would all be there or thereabouts in both of those teams. So I think it's quite, in terms of teams, comparing the two teams, I think it's actually quite close. But I think that obviously Maradona elevates the 87 team so much that he, that makes the
peak Diego, that takes it onto the peak of his powers. I mean,
that takes it onto another level. So ultimately, who will be more loved? I think Maradona's Maradona. I think that team will always be the most loved. But I think this team also will. Well, it's historic, and it will be remembered forever.
It will definitely.
And no one smashed the league like Napoli have this season. I know that's partly down to the other teams being bad or dropping so many points, but also they've destroyed the league by a distance. Winning it as early or having the chance to win it as early as anyone ever before.
Well, they should have won it at the end of April when I predicted that they win it. Like if they hadn't. But against Salernitana.
Final question: can Napoli build a dynasty now? Where can this team go from here? Can they retain the Scudetto? Can they win it 2 or 3 years in a row? Can they go even further and win the Champions League? I mean,
I think they are in the best position to do so compared to the Scudetto winners of the last 3 years. Milan, we know, can't or are not in a financial position to do so. The Suning project died after Conte pretty much won it, let's be honest. It's been frozen and it's been a slow decline since then. It's been kind of damage control. And Juventus has been a, dumpster fire since Sarri left. So out of the 4 last Scudetto winners, they are in the best position to do so. However, there are question marks. The question mark, of course, is Victor Osimhen. His contract expires in a year, if I'm not mistaken. What do they do there? Because if they don't cash in on him, they might lose him for free. What happens with Kim Min-Jae and that clause? Do they extend it? Do they remove it? Do they elevate it? Because I think if they lose both of them, then that's going to be difficult. Because even if they were to replace them, and I do think that they are in a very good position to replace both of these players, it's difficult to you don't find someone like Victor Osimhen who is ready to give Napoli, that gives Napoli what they want. I just don't know who that would be. They will find a good replacement. They might have to adapt how they play. But to find someone of his level who's ready to do what Osimhen does is just impossible, I think. Same with Kim Min-Jae. I think they can find a good defender who becomes as good as Kim Min-Jae, but to immediately have the impact that Kim has had, he's the complete central defender. I think that's going to be very, very difficult, if not impossible.
I think it depends. It absolutely depends on who they lose, and depends on how they strengthen. I mean, last summer they did incredible work, but I've said it before on this show: losing your best players and replacing them year after year is unsustainable in the long term. You can do it 1 year, you can do it 2 years, but eventually you will get it wrong one summer, like Milan have got it wrong like the last year. But look at Dortmund, look at Atalanta, look at Monaco. Eventually, it catches up with you. You can create all those three teams. They created amazing teams: Dortmund, Atalanta, and Monaco. They were all but their model was built around selling, buying young, developing, selling, and then putting the team back together again. Eventually, it caught up with all of them. So that is the tricky thing. Giuntoli's future as well. What happens to him? He's wanted by Juventus. If he leaves, then what happens? Because
who do they bring in?
Who do they bring in? Because that's what it's about. It's about player, identifying, scouting, bringing the right players in, but developing them. That's all part of it. You bring in somebody else that's not able to do that, then of course you're going to fail. De Laurentiis isn't young. He's 74. Does he stay on? How long does he want to stay on? Is he thinking of selling soon? There's that. And also, as we said after the Salernitana game, teams do start to work you out tactically, your movements, and it's up to Spalletti to make the tweaks tactically to make the changes. If you've got good players, I think you can do that. So I wouldn't worry too much about that if they've got the players. But what I would say is that I personally don't see a dynasty. And the reason for that is, this is the fourth Scudetto winner in 4 years. Now, I think we've asked this question the last three title wins. We've asked this same question. I remember asking it after Inter won it under Conte, and I remember asking it after Milan won it last year. We asked, can these teams create this? And definitely after Inter, I think we both thought potentially they could. We looked at the team, how strong it was and how dominant it was that season. Milan, maybe not so much, but we saw the youth, we saw how young the team was, and we thought, this team. It's got so much. It's got age on its side. They could easily win, quite a few Scudetti in the years to come, given how young they are. But both teams have fallen short afterwards to retain and win again. So just because Napoli have been so dominant doesn't mean they're going to win again. We've seen that the Serie A is so competitive, and there is no financial dominance by anyone, that I think it's a very level playing field.
I think what it is, and 100%, and I think we're going to have, it's the fourth Scudetto winner in 4 years. I think we could even have a fifth next year. But I don't like to talk about next season until we have a Mercato result on our hands, because that's when we really know, because so much will happen and can happen over the summer. But for me, when I look at it, I think Osimhen is key. I think if they can get Victor to just extend by a year, and I think there is a good chance that he does that, because we know how happy he is in Naples. We know how loved he is by the city. And if you win a Scudetto with in Napoli, being the MVP, as Victor will be, you're forever going to be... You're forever a hero in that city. It's as simple as that. And I think also the fact that he missed that Champions League quarterfinal against Milan, where I think, and we both said at the time that had Osimhen been playing, I think we both think Napoli would have gone through. I think that is something that he will want to... I think that might play a part in his decision to just maybe extend by a year, and maybe, or if he wants to extend further, more than that, put in a minimum release fee clause at a set amount that they negotiate. That will be key. I think Kim Min-Jae, if they can keep both, that'd be fantastic. Then they are in perfect position to go on and win the Serie A next season, no doubt about it. But I think if I could choose to keep one out of the two, I'd choose Victor over Kim, because I think you can replace Kim Min-Jae. I think Spalletti is smart enough and good enough to adapt and find another central defender that he can get to grow and cover for that. I don't think they can replace Victor Osimhen. I really think he's the only one.
No, you don't replace 30 goals a season easily. You don't. Simple. You score 30 goals a season. That's It's not easy to replace. Okay, right.
That's just one thing though. just to reiterate the importance and to put this into historic context of how big of an achievement this is. Aside from Napoli, Lazio, Roma, Sampdoria, like these are the only teams that have won the Serie A. And Hellas Verona, and Sampdoria, and Roma and Lazio. Napoli winning the third title is just incredible, and the symbolism of this is incredible as well. It's so beautiful. And I think I was talking about one of the main reasons, which I think makes the Serie A so unique in terms of what football means in Italy, and what I was first drawn to it is, yes, football is means a lot everywhere, to every country, but it expresses that importance in different ways, and the way that it expresses itself in Italy is really speaks to my heart. And when I saw what Roberto Saviano, the author and journalist, tweeted out the other day, he said something that was incredibly pertinent and beautiful to what football means to the people of Naples. When he tweeted out that supporting Napoli for me is the gateway to a dimension of perennial infancy. It's the place where I am forever 11 years old. I have an irrational relationship with Napoli. It's often the last artery that pumps blood from the city that pumps blood from the city of my heart into my body. In these hours, it's like returning and wearing that jersey that I'd made at home, because at the time official jerseys did not exist. There was no merchandising, and therefore you had to make the shirts yourself. You had to buy the logos. You had to find a blue shirt, and you had to, with lots of effort, iron the sponsor and the club's badge onto the shirt. And then this feeling, this surreal, metaphysical, romantic feeling of fighting on the pitch together to lose and win together. This is what supportership is, because for one moment you don't feel alone. The magic soon disappears. The magic soon fades, but for that moment that it lasts, it resembles happiness.
Yeah. Yeah, that's beautiful. Beautiful way to sum up what has been a beautiful season and a beautiful historic Scudetto victory for Napoli. So congratulations to Napoli. I hope you enjoyed our little celebration of the Scudetto victory. We will be back on Monday.
Monday, yeah. We'll be back on Monday for a full weekend review of the weekend, and we'll see. We'll know, because it's going to be a super Saturday. It's going to be a super weekend in the Serie A.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, then. Until next time. Ciao, ciao.